All right. So thank you guys all for being here this morning. I know that one of the things we were going to talk about today was um, talking more about the math protocols from TNTP. So just wanted to kind of do a quick review and just provide some information on the math protocols and then see where this takes us, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and go through the slides and then you guys can tell me and fill in when as we go. So obviously we're gonna be talking about TNTP math protocols. How many of you guys have actually gone through the math TNTP?
Yeah, I did.
Ms. Mo, you're the only one that hasn't gone?
I
Okay.
haven't.
All right, so this will be a good refresher for some of you, and then for Ms. Mua, obviously, it'll give you some more information. Now, before we begin, I am gonna say that, speaking to Ms. Ponce, this is going to be kind of our focus next year, as far as moving, not only doing our ELA, focus, but in math, she's gonna bring it back to, the math tasks. So this is definitely something that we're gonna be implementing, or she's gonna be implementing for the start of the beginning of the year, so this is gonna be a good review for all of us. So, just introduction, we're gonna introduce today TNT math protocols, we're gonna analyze fourth grade math performance data. Now, the data you guys are gonna see is data from the second diagnostic. We definitely wanna see, have you guys been looking at your third diagnostic?
Yes.
What do you guys think? I saw it yesterday, so, yeah,
Yeah,
you guys did good.
closing some gaps, I can see
Absolutely,
that, yeah.
so we'll talk a little bit about that. Then from there, we can develop some strategies to enhance instruction, and then, obviously, we wanna foster that PLC environment. And, here are some, norms, these are the norms that we've been using for our PLC, so I just kind of brought them back into ours, which is basically respectful listening, active participation, confidentiality, obviously, this is a safe space, so, when we talk about things, obviously, we definitely want to honor everybody's safe space. And then obviously, probably the one is committed to action. So basically, we want to make sure all of this is pertinent to your classes. So we definitely want it to be something that we can take back to your classroom.
Mhm.
And then so our agenda today will be we're gonna review where are my glasses?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, let me go down. Now I know I'm getting old. We're gonna review obviously the math data, discuss, introduce the math protocol, we'll discuss our PLC framework. I think it's on a timer, I think. And introduce the 3 reach protocol, and then we can talk about next steps. Learning pit, how many of you guys remember this? Alright, so in the learning pit, so if we talk about the math protocol, where do we find ourselves in the learning pit? Because I know this is something that was very important for TNTP, because it does gauge where we feel we are as far as mastery with the math tax. So, Ms. Richter, what do you think? What would you find
I feel
yourself?
like I'm passing between like the fourth and fifth one.
Oh,
Getting
okay.
there and then slide back.
And then getting there, come down. Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Ms. Miller? Where do you feel yourself as far as math protocols or the math tasks?
Math tasks, I would say like between where Ruther said too that I need to work hard at this and I'm confused part.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about Ms. Hernandez?
I wanna say I need to work hard at this one, and then I think I'm getting it, but just kind of like, right when I think I'm getting it, then I'm like, oh, wait, like I need to kind of go back and work on it, and it's not because it's difficult, it's just more of one of those things where it's like having to remember, okay, there's not just one way to do and solve the math task, because like multiplication, there's how many ways to solve multiplication?
Absolutely.
Or division or whatever it is. So I think that's why it's like I need to work hard on it, because now it's like, okay, like I need to remember not everyone can solve it, standard algorithm. So therefore we need to do it
right
whatever other way we have.
Absolutely. As far as myself, and I think I've gone to about maybe 2 years of it. I feel like I'm in that same space. I think I'm getting it, and then I need to work hard at this, because I think if we don't like purposefully do one constantly,
Mhm.
that's when we do I feel like I slip back. Like I need to work hard at this again.
Mhm.
But when I do it like, or I see it on a constant basis,
Mhm.
then I feel like, I think I'm getting it. Like I feel like, I feel like I'm mastering it. But again, if I don't practice it, that's nice slide
You go
down.
right back down to.
Yeah, and then sometimes I do go to the I'm confused part, so I have to go back and do the review because like, we were talking about yesterday where, there are some tweaks that we can make to math tasks. And sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't think about that, so that kind of rearranges my thinking, so we'll talk about that.
I think it's the kids too. Some days they're totally on and they're doing it and it's one that I didn't think they would get. And
Mhm.
other days it's an easy one and they're just not doing it. Like they're just not getting it.
Yeah.
They're not into it that day.
And that's a good call out, because you're right, because sometimes they do feel like, and then it makes you kind of, it makes me doubt myself. Yeah, like,
That's what.
did we do that, and did we get, I thought we got that, I thought we were there. And so it gets us back to the middle of the pit, right? But that's okay, because one thing that TNTP always says, and for you guys who've been to the trainings, is this is never a one-way street, right? There's gonna be times where we feel like we're getting it, and then there'll be times where we feel like we're slipping back into the pit. So it's definitely a two-way street when it comes to the learning pit. All right, and you guys all remember this. This is really important because I feel like I saw a lot of teachers not only use this for TNTP, but they use this for other subject matters, which is the rights as learners. The right to feel confused, right? Right to be confused, the right to make a mistake, the right to say what makes sense to you, the right to share unfinished thinking and not be judged, and then the right to revise your thinking. So obviously this, these rights can transcend other subjects, right? So some of the questions we put down the bottom is just, which right most resonates with you and why? So if we can take a little bit of time and just think, which one kind of resonates with you? And then, are there any rights you would like to add? So in this case, Ms. Hernandez, what do you think? Which one resonates for you?
I think share the unfinished thinking and not be judged, and I think that's just because coming as a second year teacher, like, I don't know much, but then sometimes it's like just that nervous question of like, okay, this is gonna sound dumb to them. And of course, it's like, you don't wanna take up any more of other people's times, but then at the same time, you're like, okay, like, maybe someone else has the same question, maybe, like, I think that's just the only thing, but that's just a me thing, cause like, experience wise.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I would say the right to make a mistake, but I would also like to attach the whole, the right to make a mistake and not be judged for it, because just like our students, like I always say, we're not gonna know something right off the bat. We need to go through mistakes to understand our problems soon, especially when it comes to math, which is a hard thing for them. Yes, they're gonna need to make mistakes in order to really understand what is the conceptual steps they need to take to reach and be successful at what they're learning.
Right, absolutely. Ms. Ruther, what do you think? What's your reason?
I think the last two, but now on the opposite end of, because I've been teaching, now that like this is a different way for me to like rethink, so like to now let them, okay, now you need to revise it, like we all do that every day.
Right.
And then not be judged because, well, this was all new to me.
Yeah.
I've never done this before, but I've been teaching, so.
Yeah, those are good points. I feel like it's funny because when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about back to when you guys attacked the repeated words and how you guys led those collaborative groups, and how I felt like a lot of our kids were allowed to do a lot of these things. Like when they were in their groups and when we were watching, there was a lot of kids that were making mistakes, but you guys allowed them to like work on that. Like it's okay to make a mistake. We're going to, work it out with your group, right? A lot of groups felt confused sometimes. Oh, well, which repeated words are we supposed to use, right? So when you guys did that lesson, I felt like a lot of these were open to them, right? They were allowed to be confused. They were allowed to make mistakes. They were allowed to find out what makes sense to that group, right? So this obviously, lends itself for a math task, right? Hey, here's your task, go at it. It's okay if you guys cross things out, right? It's okay if something doesn't make sense to you. And it's okay not to be judged. And I think that's where
Yeah,
our kids kind of sometimes feel like, I'm not gonna try that because I
right.
don't want people to say I'm wrong. So,
And all eyes on me, I'm in the hot seat, I
There
don't
you
want
go.
to, so they don't, yeah.
yeah.
I used to use this after for a morning meeting.
You do?
Because it goes even for recess. Like, it's
Absolutely.
General
Yeah.
life.
That-
I think it's easier than saying like you need to be respectful, like because they don't necessarily, but this is right in front of you. You can be confused, like, but respect
cool.
somebody. Like
Yeah,
I think that
and
they got that last year.
I agree with
But a lot
that.
of the kids did the TNTP, so they were used to it too. That year that I had them, so it was like natural for them. They're like, oh, we already know this.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it goes to different things, right? Are there any rights that you feel like we should add? Or do you think this kind of covers what our kiddos might go through?
I wanna say I have the right to take the lead on my
Oh.
learning.
Yeah,
Cause when you do math tasks, they're in charge, they're doing their own learning, so we're backing off. And I mean, I don't wanna get people confused with like, oh, if you let them lead, if they don't wanna learn, they're never gonna learn, cause they're like, oh, I don't wanna learn right now. But I think it's just for the most part, like, Caden, my student, tends to, like, he solves things in a different way from me, and he's like, I don't like the way you did it, but I did it this way and I still got the same answer. So allowing them to,
yeah,
kind
to take the
of take
lead.
the lead in their own learning too. Yeah.
So allowed to, the right to be
The
a
right
leader.
to, yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes we do see that, right?
Yeah.
They're in groups of fours or threes, and they're like, okay, nobody's talking, nobody's saying anything, but we should say something. Maybe I should say something.
Yeah.
And have that right. Oh, I like that. The right to be a leader. Anything else? So I'll definitely incorporate that into our next, when we have our next, PLC, I'll definitely put that into there, the right to be, because that's important.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our kids don't see themselves as leaders and say, hey, you know what? If you feel like you want to step up, it's okay, step up.
Like the right to ask questions.
The right to
It's
ask
super hard to
questions,
be
yeah,
a leader
yeah,
because
there you go.
I feel like sometimes they're just afraid to ask.
Yeah.
So like if they know it's okay, like just even for clarification or to ask their teammate, like, okay, I have a question about this. What were we supposed to like say? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all important, that's all important because when we do get into groups and we do have our kids do their collaborative groups for math tasks, this is gonna be fun for them. Cause they're gonna have to feel that independence, that right to, you know what, it's okay to make a mistake, cross it out, start again, do what you need to do. If it doesn't make sense to you, ask questions, you know, and it's okay to
Just
take the
taking
lead.
what you said, that's being a leader and asking and like basically advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
That's cool. Alright, so we definitely, I'll incorporate those into our next, for our next meeting. Alright, so here are our goals. Basically, we're gonna implement, obviously, the TNT math observation assignment review protocols. We're gonna analyze our performance data. We're gonna develop some strategies for the math instruction, and then obviously, we're gonna foster our PSC environment. Alright, so this is our data, and again, this is diagnostic 2. So based on diagnostic 1 and then diagnostic 2. So diagnostic 1 in 4th grade, we have 21, almost 22% of our kids 3+ grade levels below in math. And then for those that were on level, we only have 3.2%. This is the first diagnostic, our rate diagnostic. Then we went to our second diagnostic. Now we had 14.5% of our kiddos in 4th grade that were 3+ grade levels below, and 8.9% on level. So what do you guys think there?
Well, it moves at least 7%
Sorry.
from the 3+ grade levels below, and that one could be spread out between 2 grade levels below, 1 grade level below, or on grade levels. So,
And the reason I chose these two, and I kind of didn't want to focus on the middle part just yet, is because if you say you guys went from 22% to 14% from one diagnostic to the next, that you moved kids out of that area. And then you went almost, what, 7%? That you moved from on grade level, I mean, from first diagnostic, second diagnostic on grade level. It's a 7% increase. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll look at diagnostic here in a minute. Students with a DNF. So this is school-wide. So 111 of our kids out of 578 have DRFs in math.
And that's school-wide.
That's school-wide,
Okay.
yeah, because we have 578 students.
Mhm.
And then 55 point, and the reason I put that in there because I wanted you guys to get more of a overall picture, because sometimes we try to just, focus on our grade level, but sometimes we need to see how the rest of the class, the rest of the school is doing. So in this case, we have a lot of kids that are failing math.
Yeah.
55.3% of our kiddos met stretch goal, their stretch growth in diagnostic 2. Okay, and I think that right there is, I believe, 4th grade.
Oh, wow, okay,
So half,
half, yeah.
I think half.
Stretch growth.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about too is, I know I have some teachers that will tell me that they're doing great when they look at their iRating, we'll look at it in a minute, where they'll look at like their growth, but they're looking at their typical growth instead of their stretch growth. So typical growth means basically if everything remained the same, minimal teaching, minimal teacher, a student will typically grow 10%. Whether they have a good teacher, bad teacher, good instruction, bad instruction, they will typically grow 10%. So that's what typical growth means. Stretch growth is where, remember we had talked about, we want our kids to hit that stretch goal when we
Yeah.
talked about ELA, because that is the one area where we're gonna see our kiddos actually improve more than what we thought they would. All right, SBAC performance 23-24 data. So 54.6% of our students did not meet their standard. 25.6% nearly met their standard, and this is 23-24.
And this is 4th grade, right?
4th grade.
Okay.
14.5% met their standard, and 5.2% exceeded standard. And that would translate to maybe 1 or 2 kids. That's it. Mhm.
Small amount, yeah.
And so this is if you look at the bottom number, that is the bottom number that our district wants us to change. So our goal for the district is we want at least a 10% growth, 10-point growth from distance to standard. So that right there, that's the number that our district is gonna be looking at at the end of the year for our SBACs. If we can get that number closer to 0, the better.
The better. That's a very high number.
Yeah, it's a high number.
Yeah.
But it goes along with all the data, so. And the reason that I brought this in is because we always talk about iReady, and we say iReady this and iReady that. Well, how does iReady translate to SBAC? Because ultimately that is what counts, is the state test. I mean, we can really talk about iReady data as much as we want, but if that SBAC data doesn't come back mirroring what we think it's gonna be, then our data is not worth what we want it to be. So the reason we say we take those 3 diagnostic is to predict how our kids are gonna do at the end of these. So that's why they so focus on this test. All right, so so far, what trends do we observe? You know what? Before we do that, let's go and let me bring it up right now. Bring up our iReady.
Do you have the one with the chart, Mr. Sandoval?
Which one?
Like the iReady scores?
Yeah, I can bring up whatever.
Sorry, I'm a visual person,
No
so
problem.
I can see percentages, but I'm like, I like to see like the charts. Like,
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
color coded.
Okay, you guys tell me where you wanna go, so.
Just
let's
cause it's
see.
easier that way for me to understand, sorry.
No worries. How do I get out of that screen? So
Oh,
No,
this one?
yeah, it should be.
I think I know.
You guys are better at this now.
And-
I wouldn't.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so let's see if I can find that up now. Yep, there we go. Okay, so let's look at diagnostic 3 real quick. So we'll go diagnostic growth. Discovery reports. Math. Okay. We will go 4th grade. Is this what you guys want to do right now?
Yes.
Alright,
Yes, And that's all fourth grade again.
this is all fourth grade together. Okay, so we have 8% of our kids mid or above grade level, 15% on early grade level. So right there, we have how many kids already at grade level?
That's
23% of our
Uh-huh.
kids in fourth grade on grade level
On grade
right now.
level.
We have 37%.
One grade level below.
Mhm. And then 2 grade levels below, we have 20%. And here's the 3 or more grade levels below. It's at what?
20%. So that's 40%. We bunched those two,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And look at the middle. These are the ones that we have a chance of moving over.
Mhm.
So according to iReady, you already have 23% of your kids on grade level. So if they were to take SBAC, they have a really good chance of hitting their grade, their target. Now, here's the thing about stretch goal. So the typical growth, we have 55% of our kiddos who have met their typical growth 100%.
Mm.
And for our stretch goal, we only have 50%
15%.
of our kids that have hit their stretch goal.
Oh, so they're
We
hitting
have-
typical, but
yeah.
not stretch.
We have 15% of our kiddos that are close, between 80 and 99% of them hitting their stretch goal. We have 23% of them between 60 and 79%.
Mhm.
So they're on the other side of the 50% line.
Closer to hitting a stretch goal. Yeah.
And then over here, our typical growth, we have 12% of our kiddos that are almost there meeting their typical growth. So the one that we really want to focus on, because this is the one that's going to get us that bang for our buck, the stretch goal.
Mhm.
So we definitely want to focus on these two groups right here. The 23% and 15%, which translates to what, 38%?
Mhm.
Now you put 38% and then 15% that are already there. That puts us over 50%.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of kiddos that if we focus maybe in the next couple of weeks,
Mhm.
we can definitely maybe get them there.
Mhm.
And then here's the breakdown so Hernandez, you have 123% of your typical growth in your class. 75% of them have met their goal. You have 66% getting close to meeting their stretch goal, and you have 25% of those kiddos that are hitting their stretch goal. And then Miss Mua, you have 128% of your kids that hit their typical growth. 59% of them are there.
Mhm.
And then you have 66% progress, and then you have 9% of them that have hit their goal.
Mhm.
And then Ms. Ruther, you have 88% of your kids that are close to meeting their typical growth, but you have 43% of them already hit their typical growth. And 45% progress towards their stretch goal, and you have 14% of your kiddos already there.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you have over here, how many of your kiddos improved in placement?
Okay, I see the percentage.
Yeah, so how many of them have actually improved from the prior? So Hernandez 88%, Mua 77%, Ms. Ruther 67%. A lot of movement,
Yeah.
lot of movement. You guys are doing a lot of good things. I mean, look at those numbers are big.
I hope so. I feel like I'm drilling them every day and they hate me. but
Right, well, yeah, they hate you, right?
Yes.
They hate you until they take that test and they're like, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, really, really good numbers that you guys are moving over. So obviously you guys are doing a lot of good things already in your classroom. Now, I guess, when are you guys planning on taking your, SBAC?
It was gonna be the week of the 12th, if I remember correctly, because because the May 5th is the week that we have the field trip thing, so I think we were doing May 12th, we were gonna start
Reading.
SBAC for reading, and then the 19th is when we're doing.
Okay, so you guys got what, a couple weeks?
Yeah, about like 2,
Yeah.
3 weeks.
So are you guys gonna start reviewing or what's your
Yes.
guys' plan of attack on?
Next week, right, we're doing.
The 2 weeks and then,
Okay.
yeah, I had, so we had started already talking about like doing the CAT
She did too.
assessments and the performance tasks, for ELA and then for math. We have the stuff that it's with their targets,
Good.
DOK levels, item types, and then trying to see which ones
So
are gonna be
the
more.
math targets, yes, that's kind of where you wanna start. Because if you guys can,
Cause I think it was this one, or this one. It was telling us how many, what was it, the,
specs are.
yeah, like which one is gonna be, and I believe numbers and operations was what
That
takes
would
up
be
the
higher.
most. Multiple choice, I can't remember which one it was, we saw the numbers on it, but yeah, there was like about, I think out of the 20 questions, I wanna say like 15 of them were like numbers and operations. And it does focus a lot with the place value, a lot of it. And then I think there was just a very scattered amount with like, conversions, angles. I think there was only like 1 or 2 questions that are gonna be on SBAC that involve like the, or like fraction, decimal, and location, but the majority was, gonna be with.
When you guys are talking about item specs and targets, because that's exactly where you guys should begin. So remember this screen right here, proficiency if no growth?
It's right here, so this
Yeah.
one, the cluster, so for the CAT, it has 4 operations, whole numbers to solve problems, place value to understand multi-digit arithmetic, understanding fraction equivalents and ordering, that takes up at least 8 to 9 questions. And in total, most kids could get about 17 to 20 questions, it's like half.
That's gonna be what's gonna drive your review, right there. I agree 100%. It's good. You guys remember this right here? Proficiency if students have no additional growth. So you guys are projected at 16%, 35% not proficient, and 49% below
Grade level.
grade level, right? Now,
That's
that's if they have no additional growth.
Uh-huh.
This is, let's see here. Let's see, let me, oh, let's go with. So there's your comparison for no additional growth, 16 compared to 11% in the fall. A few more seconds, let me see, go to which one? So go give me the projected. She's not student sheet is with another, one second. And the end of the academic year, so. What if they'll do all winter? Oh, there we go. Okay, I guess it's just the fall. So if they achieve their stretch goal, 30%.
Their stretch goal?
Mhm.
Oh, okay,
That's a lot of kids.
yeah. As long as the level 1 is being decreased, like, yeah.
So does that kind of align with the data that we've been talking about?
Yeah.
If our kids hit that stretch goal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. And then Hernandez, I don't know whether the numbers are not adjusted, so we'll just focus on this one for now. All right, so if we go back to, let's see, so what trends do we observe? Movement, okay. In the right
In the
direction?
right direction,
Okay.
yeah.
Which areas require immediate action? I think this goes along with your targets. So now that you guys know that you guys have been moving these kids quite a bit, so what areas do you guys see yourselves hitting in the next couple of weeks?
Multi-digit arithmetic.
Multi-digit arithmetic, maybe word problems.
More problems, yeah.
I think for us, word problems were what the kids struggle with the most, and the fraction equivalents, because a lot of the kids, that was just something where it was like, oh, what is 1/4 equal to, and then they'll put 1/4 again. It's like, no, they're not like getting to different fractions. I think that's where it kind of is. Like, I feel like the kids are pretty strong in the beginning of the school year, but once we introduce fractions and decimals, that's when it kind of like.
So do you guys see the value maybe of the math tasks, maybe? Absolutely, especially if you guys are talking word problems, right? All right, what are some success stories, some challenges? Well, obviously, your success stories, your numbers, that's some great movement. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but when Ms. Ponce and I saw these numbers, we were like, okay, they're pushing in the right direction. A lot of other grade levels didn't have this kind of movement,
Oh, really?
just so you know.
Good
Yeah,
job.
actually, yeah, for sure, success. So then, what are some challenges that you guys think you guys are anticipating before SBAC?
I think for me, it would just be the motivation for my kids. Because I
Motivation.
see it's towards the end of the year, they're starting to deplete. They're just like, I don't care, like, let's just get this over with.
Right.
And I'm just trying to find ways to really still keep their mind on being very focused that even though we're towards the end of the year, this is what you learned so far. You're
Yeah.
going to take this learning and apply it to your life. This is a whole life skill thing. Like, I always
Absolutely.
apply it back to that. So for me, it's motivation for the
Motivation.
kids and engagement. Yeah.
I think challenges is figuring out what is a fun and engaging way to do a math review, because you could only do so much lecture and workbook and partner work. Even if you gave them a worksheet and it's like, oh, okay, collaborate with your group of partners, it like that could only get you so much. It's like, finding different ways. Like I've done like Jeopardy review games, we've done like just kind of
Talking about that,
finding games with it.
how would a math task engage them compared to just doing rudimentary? Okay, here's your problem. Everybody work it out on your own. And
Well, you have to talk it through. You have to see like, what is this math task asking me? Not just something like, oh, okay, just solve it.
Yeah. Do you think that might be engaging for them?
And collaboration, because usually math tasks, they're just like how we do in our PLs. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I remember going through math when I was a kid. I hated to
Do it by yourself.
do it by myself because I would be so confused.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to tell a teacher, ask questions. I didn't want to tell them
When
nothing.
you're doing 50 of the same problem.
So then when I got put in a group, I would let others take the lead so I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I saw it, then I'm like, oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Then I felt more confident
Yeah.
in trying to respond it on my own. So it really helped me being in groups because I was never the one to ask questions.
Yeah.
I would just go, okay, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just gonna wing it. Try to do it. But then when I got put in groups and I knew other people knew it better than I did, I would let them solve or try to take the lead. Then I'd see it and then I like, oh, okay, all right. I was either on the right track and that affirmed that for me, or dude, I was way off. And so,
And I think the kids learn like better with each other
Yeah.
too. Because even then, like the way I'm teaching it, they might not understand it because of the word choice. Maybe it's not academically friendly for them.
Mhm.
So then they would actually learn better from their peer because then they're using words that they understand. So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's a good thing. Yeah.
All right, I think I absolutely agree with that. All right, so let's talk about the 3 Reach protocol. So these are some of the things that the 3 Reach protocol helps with. The 3 Reach protocol helps students break down complex math problems. It supports reading comprehension, sense making, and meta awareness of mathematical language. Because they're able to dissect the word problem, they're able to understand it a little bit better. And then finally, students actively make sense of mathematical situations through structured reading and discussion. And that discussion portion is the important part, right? When they're discussing in their collaborative groups, when they're discussing, what needs to happen to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the benefits of 3 Reach protocol, number one, it helps students understand problem structures before attempting solutions. It encourages deeper mathematical reasoning, reduces language barriers in math. ELs, this helps ELs so much. And then it aligns with our TNTP's focus on strong math instruction and equitable learning opportunities. And I think this is why Ms. Ponce is gonna really hone in on this next year for this very reason. All right, so in a gist, these are the 3 steps. The first read is to read the problem out loud, focusing on the situation, the main idea of the context. The second read, 3 to 5 minutes, identify and list countable measurable quantities without analyzing the relevance of it. In other words, what are the quantities? That's it. And then finally, the third read, 1 to 2 minutes, reveal the question, prompt, discuss solutions using previous steps, and encourage diagramming. Also, this is the perfect opportunity to introduce what?
Repeating words.
Repeating words, good.
Because I don't know, I think I was asking you.
Yeah.
That little box that we use where it said, what are the, it goes through like what are the quantities, what are the.
A little section.
What can it-
Yeah, it's like a diagram that
Yeah,
we were
with the
using.
box, they always wanna give me numbers, but
Yeah.
I had them circle the repeating words, I said, okay, what are the nouns, what are the repeating words that you just circled?
Right.
Oh, it was, carnival, it was, so then they were able to get the ideas, like what's the theme of it,
Mhm.
so it did work for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree 100%. This is a perfect opportunity to even incorporate, again, some ELA skills in here.
Which even happens because then the repeating words are usually in the question. So once you find the repeating word in the question, it kind of ties it back to, okay, so what's the question now, what's that repeating word, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It did work.
Yeah. And also, it allows them to use those repeated words to figure out what the question's gonna ask it later, right? I was gonna say as well, this is also the opportunity to bring in manipulatives. And I think that's gonna be a key, right? Is being able to, here are all your manipulatives, okay? Not necessarily tell them which ones to use, because you want them to do that, have that productive struggle, but also come out with I guess a manipulative that will help with the situation. And if they pick the wrong one, figure out why didn't that work? You know, if you're doing a fraction problem and you're using unit counters, how's that really helping you instead of the fraction types? But not necessarily telling them that. Let them figure it out, right? That productive struggle that they're gonna go through. All right. Any questions on the different implementation steps? No? Okay. Let's practice.
I forgot my pencil.
Oh, don't worry, there's plenty in here. This is an art class.
Art class.
You're just like my class.
Exactly. All right, so let's do one together. So before we go there, I don't know if this can pause, but I'm gonna pause it. Let's see if that worked. Okay. If it did. All right, we'll see. All right, I got some paper over here. And I didn't plan this because we're in an art class, but it was either. I think I had some markers over there too, but this one needs some of those. All right. There's 3 pieces of paper. I got some other markers. What happened? Oh, I know, right? Here's some markers. Okay, remember, I want all my markers back. Here's some markers you want to know. All right, so if we go through the math protocol, and of course, this is a review, so a lot of you already know how to do this, but this is also a good way just to kind of, if you have any questions, ask. Because we can definitely, like we said, right, we want to be some of the right learners. We want to make sure that we are, you know, something's confusing us or something doesn't make sense to us, this is the opportunity to clarify some of those questions. So the first thing we do is we look at the question, right? What questions can we ask? When Isabel went on vacation, she took 35 pictures at the zoo. Then she took 4 times as many at the museum. I guess I didn't pause.
Oh, wait, go back?
Yeah. Can you freeze it from there? Okay, but mine's still gonna go here, right?
Yeah, I think yours
Okay,
is still
so-
gonna go.
Oh,
go back,
sorry,
go
I
back.
went back
So
the other
wait,
way.
okay, here, go back
Okay,
3
go
plus
back.
3.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Now, end your PowerPoint. on top of how.
Okay, there we go.
There.
Oh, see? Good now. Okay, when Isabel went on vacation, she took 35 pictures at the zoo, and then she took 4 times as many at the museum than she did at the zoo. After arriving back at the hotel, she deleted 15 pictures that she didn't want. So, first read. The first thing you would want to do is, what is this story about? So we're reading for comprehension.
Uh-huh.
So we asked our students, this story is about, what would we say? What are
Is-
some? Yeah, this is answer.
could I answer as a
Yeah.
student?
Yep.
Oh, Isabel went on a vacation, she was taking pictures. She went to the zoo and then she went to the museum afterwards and took photos and then deleted some.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Mr.
A lot of
What
times you words like, oh, it's about a vacation
Uh-huh.
and a museum and pictures.
Yep,
That's,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
they just figured like.
because if we're
just
answering a
words.
student, that's squared away. What do you
Okay.
got, Mr. Hernandez, my star student over here?
No, cause I was just getting like, okay, she
Oh, but she's already writing.
I took the pictures.
Uh,
And then it's just basically just, like, I'm assuming just from these two things that they're gonna ask us how much does she have?
mhm. Yeah, I would agree. I would probably say if I was a student, Isabel went on vacation and she took pictures.
Mhm.
And she deleted some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, something quick.
Mhm.
One of the things we want to do for our EL learners is we want them to use some of these sentence steps. We want them to say, this story is about,
Mhm.
and I think this story is about. So if we get them started with these kind of sentence stems, it allows them to understand this is a comprehension question, and I'm asking you what this is about.
Mhm.
Am I asking about picture? I mean, the numbers?
No.
No. Am I asking you to solve this? Nope. All I'm asking you is to
What is this
understand.
about?
What is this about? It's about a girl. She went on vacation. She went to the zoo. I never been to the zoo,
Mhm.
right? You get all these crazy responses from these kids, but because of these responses, they're making sense of the problem.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, she took pictures and then she deleted them. I remember I did that too. Like,
Mhm.
you know, they started making those connections, right? So this is what the first read is all about. And like Mr. Hernandez, she already got her paper and she's already making notes.
Mhm.
Is that okay? Can
Yes.
kids do that?
Yes.
Yes, they can. You know, they can make notes. Now, one thing we don't want them to do right away is do what?
Solve it.
Yeah, solve that problem, okay? And the more discussion, can you actually have a partner, right? If you said to your class, turn to your partner, tell them what the story's about. Can we get that collaborative discussion in there?
Yes.
Absolutely. Hey, Ms. Mula, talk to your partner, tell them what the story's about. And then you turn to somebody, hey, yeah, this is about Isabel. She went to the zoo and she took too many pictures, so she deleted some.
Mhm.
Cool, alright. Okay. From there, that's the one.
And then you wanna do it from class.
And then end my sludge. Oh man, Mr. Hernandez is teaching me some stuff. All right, now here's our second read. Now we focus on quantities, right? So what can be counted in this story is some of the questions we want to ask.
Mhm.
What are the quantities? What are the relationships? And I think that's an important one here. What are these quantities? How are they related? So again, we read the question again, right?
Mhm.
When Isabel went on vacation, she took 35 pictures at the zoo. Then she took 4 times as many at the museum than she did at the zoo. After arriving back at the zoo, or at the hotel, she deleted 15 pictures that she didn't want. So again, now we're just focusing on numbers, right? Quantities. And as Ms. Ruther said, do they just have to be numerical? No.
No.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Where do you guys see where it's not numerical?
The 4 times.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That is the one. Like, if you were to tell me one thing that throws kids off,
Mhm.
and even adults,
What's that time?
is at times.
But even the times as many as,
Mm.
because you do that
Yeah.
up there, so
Mhm.
that should kind of, as many as means.
So,
Yes, yeah.
so by us already identifying that, we can see potential problems that these kids are gonna have when they do this second read, right?
Mhm.
And how long should the second read be? You guys remember from the previous slides? 3 to
Oh, 3 to 5?
5 minutes. Quick, right?
Me as an EL, when I did 4 times,
Mhm.
like I just see, like if I skim this quickly, I'm like, okay, she has 35 and she took 4, and then when I hear the words as many, when I grew up, I just knew as many means just 4 more.
Mhm.
So something I would possibly face is, oh, she took 4 more pictures, not 4 times as many.
Exactly. And I think that's, like, if I'm reviewing for SBAC, I am definitely focusing on that, because they're gonna, you know for a fact, they're gonna be asked that kind of a question. 4 times as many. So if our kids are not clear on what, or they're still confused on what that means, we have to make sure that they're not confused.
Mhm.
Or at least as best as we can, right?
Yeah.
Because we know for a fact they're gonna be asked that.
Mhm.
And I believe this, if I'm not mistaken, I pulled this from fourth grade problem task, a problem of the day.
Mhm.
So here are some sentence stems that we can use with our ELs and our kiddos. In this story, we can count. The quantities in the story are, and the relationships are. So how would we explain the relationship part? Like, how would we explain that to our students?
I have to use the word what, like the question word what.
What?
35 what?
Okay.
There's 4 what times.
Right.
15 what?
15 what?
Mhm.
What would be
And then you're
relationships?
repeating words again too.
There you
When
go.
they write it out, that's circle. This is pictures, this is
Mhm.
pictures. So
Pictures.
it's kind of like limiting it down to, now we're
Mm.
focusing on pictures, which could be,
Mhm.
Like I did like a
repeated with
So I put started with 35 pictures, then from there, it says 4 times, that could possibly mean multiply or repeated addition. From here, it says delete, and I put question marks because it's like, okay, when they have delete, is that we're subtracting or we're dividing? It says delete.
That's a great-
And then from there, I'll get my.
What does delete mean?
Mm.
Does it mean subtract? Does it mean add?
Mhm.
Because it does say deleted 15 pictures. So again, going back to what you said, not necessarily just focusing on numerical quantities, right? Focusing on some of those words.
Mhm.
So those are really good thoughts. All right, let's go to our third read. So here's our third read. Now, what questions can we ask? When Isabel went on vacation, she took 35 pictures at the zoo. Then she took 4 times as many at the museum. And again, we're reading this because we want to make sure that they are listening and comprehending the question. So every time we do a new read, we definitely want to read the question again. After arriving back at the hotel, she deleted 15 pictures that she didn't want. So what are some questions that we can ask about this? So this is where the kids are almost trying to predict what they're trying to solve.
Mhm.
We haven't introduced the question yet, or what they do want them to do. So some of the sentence stems could be, we could ask what? I would ask what? So what are some examples? What could we say?
I would ask, what are we doing 4 times?
Oh, there you go. What are we doing 4 times?
The 15 pictures, did she delete them from her zoo pictures or from her museum pictures?
There you go.
I was wondering how to word that one, because I don't wanna,
Right.
because it'll lead them into solving it if I say, okay.
Well,
how-
and that's what kids are gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're gonna try to figure out
Try to figure it
what
out.
kind of question this is asking me.
Mhm.
We could ask, do we need to find out the total number of pictures,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
right? If I'm thinking as a student, what is this asking me?
And then after that, then what do you do when you are deleting
So
stuff?
one
Like
of
you,
the things that they do, even with deleting, is sometimes it's like, you know how when they ask you those questions where it's like, they're wanting you to do the math on it, and then it was like, oh, she left the zoo at 3:03 p.m. So then it like, is those deleting 15 pictures gonna be part of the total, or is it just something to trip up the kids? Cause the question could be, oh, 35 pictures at the zoo, she took 4 times as many, what's the difference between her museum or that one? And they might have those 15 pictures there to trip them up.
Mhm.
So it's figuring out, well, once we get to the end, what is this question wanting me to solve?
Do you see how, and I'm seeing it, but I wanna ask this question. Do you see how this lends to collaborative groups so
Yes.
easily?
Mhm.
Can you imagine us in force, right? And the teacher asking us, okay, turn to your groups and I want you guys to each come up with a question you can ask. And tell your partners or tell your group. And here we are,
Mhm.
telling each other all these different questions that we have.
It's even extended for later on, where they can go back and now re-figure out, not the answer to this question you're gonna get, but
Mhm.
now create 2 more questions and do those because you're gonna get different answers depending on the question.
Yeah.
So you can use the same question to get
Yep.
subtraction, they could have just done subtraction,
Mhm.
or they could do multiplication.
So it lends itself to academic discourse between the students. You got that collaborative talk, you have that engagement, all the things that we've been working on in ELA, right here we will have as well. So those are the important parts, right, where kids are just discussing these things and they're trying to figure it out on their own, and we're just facilitating, right? We're listening to those conversations and then maybe tweaking a thing here or there to lead them where we want them to go.
It kind of shows them how important the question actually is too, that like you actually can't just look at the numbers and say, oh, 15 deleted, so if you don't delete, so I'm just gonna subtract, because you
Yeah.
actually have to read the question, because
So then,
for different questions, they're all correct answers depending on the question.
yeah.
A lot of my kids will do, they'll just find numbers and
Mhm.
do
How
the
many times did they take an FID and they just like
Yeah.
finish this question in less than 2 minutes? Oh, here's the answer, because I saw 35 and then I saw 15, but I didn't really focus on the 4 times. And I don't really know what deleted means, but maybe this is an addition question, so I'll add 35 plus 15.
Mhm.
And you know what they're gonna do in SBAC. 35 plus 15 is what? 450?
50.
You know that's gonna be an
Oh,
answer
absolutely,
yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
You know that's gonna be an answer choice. Because they're gonna do that to them. They're gonna put 50 as a possible answer because they know these kids are gonna go 35 plus 15, and they're gonna see that and they go, oh, there's my answer.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
50.
I got it right.
Click,
There
I got
it
it
is.
right.
Mhm.
So we definitely want them to understand that we gotta slow down in some of these problems.
Mhm.
Have that conversation.
Okay.
All right. All right, let's go in to the next one.
Oh, you have to unfreeze it, Hernandez.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. All right, now comes the solid prompt. Now we introduce the question. When Isabel went on vacation, she took 35 pictures at the zoo. Then she took 4 times as many at the museum that she did at the zoo. After arriving back at the hotel, she deleted 15 pictures that she didn't want. How many pictures does she have from her vacation? So now, this is where they'll collaborate and we'll have them in groups, right? And they'll start to solve it.
Mhm.
This is where we let them go on their own to have that collaborative talk, that discourse, and that productive struggle, right? And this is also where we will introduce what?
Productive struggle.
Productive struggle,
Okay.
yes. But what do we want to introduce to them to help them solve these problems? Yes.
Manipulators.
This is where we bring in the manipulatives. So if I was me, I would have 5 or 6 different manipulatives available to them. I would put it right in the middle of the table. And I said, here are some manipulatives for you to use to solve your problem. You're more than welcome to use whatever you want.
Mhm.
Walk away.
And then just log
Yeah. Like Ms. Giametti says, prompt and walk.
in.
Prompt and walk.
So hard, that's the hardest thing to ever do,
I know it is.
because you want them to answer.
Yes.
Like,
Nope, prompt and
Walk
walk. Walk away.
I need.
And so, yeah, and so now you're putting the ownership of learning back on
On
them.
their hands.
Yeah.
You're,
So they'll come over and they're gonna look through all the manipulatives and they're gonna say, oh, okay, what am I gonna use that kind of goes with this? Do I use fraction tiles? Am I gonna use counters? Am I gonna use base 10 blocks? Whatever, right? Marbles, whatever you decide, right? Whatever you think will help them come up with this. But we're giving them the ownership of picking what manipulative they want to use. And if they pick the wrong one, that's a learning option right there. Because then we can, when they're trying to, or when they're struggling with it because they're using the wrong manipulative, that's when we can come in and facilitate. Oh, I see that you used, and I'm gonna make something up, fraction tiles. Can you tell me why you chose fraction tiles? Not necessarily tell them that they're wrong, but just to tell them, oh, can you explain that to me? I'm wondering why you chose fraction tiles over the other ones. Because I see you're struggling. And then that makes them think, oh, well, yeah, we picked them because we thought it was gonna do this, this, and this. But it's not helping us. Oh, okay. I see. Is there anything else that you might have you can pick that might help you solve this problem? And then maybe they come back and they pick something different. So again, that's that struggle, that productive struggle, that putting the ownership back on them to figure out, and that requires us to also step back and, not try to save them all the time, right? Oh, you picked the wrong one. Here, use this one.
Or not pick one at all.
Yeah.
Some like to draw it out themselves.
Because
a lot of kids like.
yeah, and that's a strategy.
They want to do, but.
And that's a strategy. And that's when we come in and we say, oh, I see that you drew this. Can you explain this to me? Because, I want you to explain your thinking. And then, have you told your partners about this? And then walk away. And then, one of the things that I saw that was very powerful is when you have them in different areas and you see a group that's struggling, you can tell them, hey, why don't you go look at that group? And walk away. They'll turn and look at the other group. Oh. And then see, a lot of people think that's cheating.
Yeah.
It's not cheating. It's they're just trying to figure things out. That's what?
It's not cheating, it's learning.
But once they realize that, they're like, wait,
Exactly.
look around at
Right.
other people?
Right. Don't we do that? I do that. Like if I'm somewhere and I really don't know what I'm doing.
Like, what did you guys do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You just turn over. How'd you guys? Oh.
I did it in Whole Foods yesterday because I didn't know how to get the, I'm like, do I just get the pizza and some buckets?
You're looking around, right? Like, you're looking around trying to figure it out. Why can't our kids not do that?
Yeah.
It's not a test.
I think because the kids instill the fact that if you're looking at someone else that's automatically cheating, I mean, because we do that during testing. We're like, yeah, look, you guys are your own. So I think when the kids are broken up, especially when I have my boards up, on the white paper on the board, the kids tend to not want to look at each other.
Right.
When there are ones that do, and they're like, oh, look, they're looking at us, they're cheating.
Yeah.
So maybe just normalizing that it's
Right.
okay to look at their resources too.
Because you might see them that they're on the right track.
Yeah.
You literally see them on the right track. And they're just missing that last component. And you don't really want to tell them or save them because that's what we don't want. But then you still want to give them an avenue where they can use to figure it out, right? So then you just tell them, say, because the other group was there too, but they did figure out that last part. So then you go, hey, you might want to look at them. Look at their board.
Could be a good norm too, like there's a time to be on your own and do your work, but then what we're doing now, you have the right to look around, like
Right.
kind of thing, like you have the right
And not
to
be judged.
use everybody.
Yeah, we're not judging you.
Like we're working as groups, but we're really doing this as a class.
Exactly. And when they get that look and they're like, oh, they added, we subtracted. Or maybe they missed that problem, right, Ms. Hernandez? The deleted part. Maybe they were doing everything perfectly and then they figured they didn't understand what deleted meant. So they didn't do the subtraction problem.
Well, I had already seen one thing that could already predicted it out, because I saw it.
Okay, we'll see. All right, now that you solved it, we're gonna put you on the spot, Ms. Hernandez. How did you solve it? Let's see what you got. You're gonna have to stand up and show us because we're all visual learners. Look at her. See, this is where I need to get back into the classroom. So I'm gonna know how to do all this like really
Okay.
quick.
So-
Yeah.
From the thing, from what I remember, so it's
Okay.
about she went to go take some pictures, this and that. So she took 35 at the zoo. So then she took 4 times at the museum. So first I have to stop here. I even spelled museum right, that's fine. So I have to just stop right here. I'm like, okay, first I have to 35, so either repeat edition 35, 35, 35, 35, or 35 times 4. We've kind of instilled boxes with them. I try not to do standard algorithm because then they start getting mixed up. So I'm keeping this blue so we can see that this is the museum. So 30 plus 5. 4 times 3, 12, drop to 0, 20, 20, and then this is 140 at the museum. But she goes back to the top, blah, 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 and then deletes the pictures. If I wasn't paying attention, I would have just been like, oh, she just deleted 15 pictures, right? Yeah. And she has 115 in total. But the thing is, you can't forget the zoo pictures. So I made that mistake, right? That's why I put in red. I made that mistake because I have 140 pictures. I forgot to add the zoo before I subtracted. So what I was supposed to technically do the right way is you have your 140 from the museum. You have to add your zoo pictures. And then now you subtract what you took away in the hotel, and your total should be 160 pictures.
Good call out, cause I missed it, I had that.
I was gonna tell you, yeah.
Yeah,
What
I
did you
did
get?
read it.
Did
You
you
got
get?
160.
You got
Oh,
160?
wow.
Well, no, because I
You got it wrong.
the only thing I would have done was like, okay, do they wanna know, like, with the question asked, do they wanna know just the zoo or
Mhm.
just the museum, or do they wanna know picture in
So
general?
So that would
Which
be a
is
great
why I
question.
circled the word pictures.
Yeah.
It's
There you
a
go.
total pictures, it's not the zoo pictures, it's not the museum pictures, it's your total
Total
pictures,
pictures.
which the repeating words would help with
See,
that.
that's a great call.
Okay.
See, I would have done
I
that.
stopped at one
I
twenty-five.
wouldn't have gone to 160.
Yeah.
I would have, see, that would be me right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
100%. Well, and see, this kind of lends, now that we
Well,
solved
it's
it,
because the 35 pictures of the zoo, it's briefly mentioned in the beginning, and then you're getting, oh, and then there's 4 times blah, 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 and then you start focusing at the bigger number, and then that's when you're like,
Yeah.
that's cool. We need to take this, because I would have missed that.
I did that.
I sure did miss it.
I missed it.
See, so leave that up there, Miss Hernandez, for a minute, because that, now that we solved it, that lends ourselves to what our next steps would be, right? And this is part of but I'll just move on from the PowerPoint for a minute. Once our kids solve this, right, and they wrote down the answers, right? This then leads us to probably the most important step as far as the 3 reads. And sometimes teachers forget this spot because, or forget this step because they're kind of, time crunch, whatever, moving forward. But the most important step to this is now collecting student items for analysis. Because in the 3 reads, this would have been a student's work, right? Mr. Hernandez's work, right? We would have collected this, or a group would have collected this, and then we would have come together as a PLC, or whenever our PLC team was, and then we would have analyzed what this happens. Now, you could do this by yourselves as well, but you would collect every student's paper and then analyze what were some of the typical errors that were made. Exactly. What were some of the errors made? Because we want to show our kids these errors so that the next time they do a problem like this, they're not caught off guard again. So then you collect student work, somebody that did it correctly, somebody that did it a certain way because you saw a trend in the classroom. And then, so you're looking for these little trends. So this would have been definitely a trend, right? Why are they all getting 125? Why are they all getting 125? So when you do that analysis, that item analysis, either as a group of PLC or on your own if you were to do this, you would definitely collect one of these and show it to your kids afterwards when you do the debrief. Because part of the math protocol or 3 reads is a student debrief. All right, kids. Yesterday, you guys did a great job with the 3 reads, and you guys rocked it. I saw a lot of engagement, a lot of this, but let's talk about some of the typical errors that we saw happening in the classroom. Here's one, and of course, you will leave the student's name out of it and stuff like that. You could snip it. That's what I used to do.
Well, like for me, because I mean, technically, shouldn't we be not using the word error? Because technically, that's not wrong. The math is right. It was
Good call out.
misconception of what the question's asking us, because that's correct. There is in total, they did subtract the pictures, like they are
They gave the
doing the
procedure
steps.
correctly.
But what the
They just
question's
misread.
asking you is in total. They just read museum pictures. They're not
Absolutely.
wrong. It's just misconception.
Misconception. I love that word.
And
You're absolutely right about that.
And with that one, this is where we go back to that, thingy you told us, the right to, make a mistake, the right to,
Yep.
defend yourself, because some kids will show the work and it's like,
And you know what? That is part of the, when you debrief, you can ask a student, hey, what do you think the student was trying to do here? And you might even get that, the student might recognize their work and they go, oh, I'm gonna try to defend that. Well, I did this, and then they go through the process, right? And then other students are like, oh, okay, we see what you did. And then we can say, what was the misconception here, right? Where did we miss what the question was asking?
because if you keep saying errors and we have
Mhm.
half the class who had 125, they're not gonna wanna defend why they got 125, they're like, oh, I'm wrong, not
Absolutely.
gonna talk about it.
Yep, I agree with that. But those are good conversations to have, because I would catch myself saying error. I'm not gonna lie, I probably would say that in class. I would say, oh, look at, what is the error that we saw here? And then I would probably use it. Instead of using the word misconception, where you're not, because yeah, if I was a student, I'm like, oh man, we got that wrong. It could change the way I look at the problem. But that's why we want to do these or misconception analysis.
But that's really good, like if they each create their own question,
Mhm.
because that would answer someone else's question, so then technically, no, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
For that question.
For that
But
question.
it shows, but does that actually answer the question that was asked?
Right.
It may answer her question
Mhm.
that she had, so it's not wrong,
Yeah.
because if that was her question.
And that's why the debrief is so powerful. Because you have all these kids either trying to defend it or they're clarifying misconceptions.
Well, like for us, cause like right now we've been doing angles in
Mhm.
class, I know, but this was like yesterday. And it showed like on the protractor, you know how whatever side you're on, it still has the numbers connecting.
Mhm.
So I have some kids like, I got 120, and other kids like, oh, I got 50 or whatever. Both of them are right because the protractor says or whatever that they're on the same number. But I'm like, I was like, are they wrong? And then they're like, technically no. I'm like, what is the next step that they were supposed to look at? And then that's when they're like, we need to look at the angle itself. And then they're like, oh, it's acute. It can't be the 100 and something because acute is less than 90.
Identifying the angle first
So-
before even measuring
Yeah.
the degree.
So that's what I kind of try and do. And I think that's also what helps out with the class. I was like, are they wrong? Are these numbers wrong? They're like, no, we brought it down to just 2 numbers. Now we just need to figure out which one it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's what I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
I try and tend to use the word or avoid using the word error.
Right. And that's a good call out, because I agree with you. We don't want to turn out kids to something that they really try hard at. Because you're absolutely right. A kid might be super proud of themselves because they figured it out. They did get to 125, but they were like working hard at it and going through the steps. And then we turn around and say, oh, that was wrong. Instead of using a word such as, you did the math correctly, you went through the steps, there was just a misconception that we need to clear up. And that makes it a lot more digestible, I guess, even for me. So that's a good call out.
No.
Let's see here. Go here. So we'll go to the conclusion next steps. So again, just to recap our key takeaways, obviously the math protocol is going to be something important that we're going to implement next year, but it's something that we can already start with our SBAC. Encourage Colorado. Ooh, I'm talking in this one. That's crazy. Okay, how do we freeze this? I'll just end slide right there. Okay, thank you. And of course, I want to change that. I'm going to change it next time, next step for student, and I want to put for misconception analysis. So thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And again, we definitely want to, note that this is something we can use like tomorrow, right? We can use some of our problems of the day. We can definitely easily make this into a 3 weeks protocol. Do you guys still have your guys' plastic
Yes.
chart? Okay, so you could definitely use those. Do you guys see you guys needing any other materials that I can provide for you guys?
Markers?
Absolutely. I can provide markers.
That'd be great.
Yeah, do you guys want, what kind of markers? Just the,
To do the white.
Thick stuff?
Yeah, that's
okay,
fine.
alright.
Or just black chiseling.
Not just, you want different colors?
My kids fight over the colors. I would just use black. That's just me though. That's just
Okay.
me.
So one of the immediate actions that I'm gonna take is provide you guys with the materials for that. So, definitely expo markers, erase, do you guys need erasers? No? Okay, you guys do have enough of the other ones?
The white, yeah, we're,
The white,
the white.
the ones you guys
board.
can put up? Yeah, the white one. Do you guys have chart paper?
Yes,
Okay,
plenty.
so we're good there. Alright, so, you know, this is, you know, I'm excited because when I heard that you guys were already, some of you guys were already doing math tests, and I know this was a push for Ms. Ponce for next year, I think this was a great segment, so, thank you for letting me do this quick PL with you guys on, the 3 weeks protocol. Do you guys want to take a break? Because I know we've been sitting for a while. Alright,
Yes.
yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.